We have this booklet, How to Run a Shabbos Table. If this is available for $14 if you PayPal my email. This is a booklet to help you if you want to have keep everybody at the Shabbos table interested. Teenagers, it covers everything from how a husband or father should give a Dvar Torah, what kind of Dvar Torah so it doesn't put people to sleep, and what kind of food presentation, what foods work, what foods don't work, what kind of Zmiros to sing. And anybody who's interested, you can contact me via email, and I'll send you the file. It's what do you call it? We really should do a professional advertisement. You too can have an exciting Shabbos table. You too can tell a Dvar Torah that will stop your wife from yawning. You too can keep disgruntled teenagers interested. Yes, it is all here in the Shabbos table. How to run a Shabbos table. Yeah, we're making a movie out of it. Internationally acclaimed by the New York Times bestseller. This is what you call it. And we're going to soon to be a movie starring Dovid Kaplan as the challah knife. With arch villain Bernd Schultz. And his sidekick, filter fish, right?
That's better than 90% of advertising.
Yeah, right? All right, gentlemen, page 636. A little further, actually. All right, please hold all questions because we got a tremendous amount to do because we got double Parsha. So hold all the questions and comments to the end today. I want to get through quite a bit of information here. Okay, the first one is last time we got to Perek Tes Zayin Pasuk Ches, and now we are on. If you take a look at Perek Tes Zayin, I'm going to be moving rather quickly. But if you take a look at Perek Tes Zayin Pasuk Chaf Beis 1622, which is on page 642. So we're talking about sending away this goat, with the goat that goes out to the desert, and the Ish Iti is sent with this Ish Iti, we just said last time, is a man who is destined to die in the course of the year. It's on page 642, fifth line from the top. And then it says like this: V'nasa hasa'ir olav es kol avonosam es eretz gezerah. The goat carries all of their sins out to this wilderness. V'shilach es hasa'ir bamidbar. He sends the goat off to the desert. So the commentaries ask over here why there's a repetition. If you take a look two lines up at the fifth line, it says V'shilach biyad ish iti hamidbar. You should send it with this Ish Iti off to the desert. And then 2 lines later it says Vishilach es hasa'ir b'mir. He sends the goat off to the desert. So why does it repeat twice? The Torah has to repeat twice that he is sent. Obviously, if you're sending him with the Ish Iti, why does it say that he sends the goat? So one of the commentaries points out over here that this goes back to the story of Eliyahu Hanavi at the Har Carmel. If you know the story, the famous showdown between Eliyahu Hanavi and the prophets of Baal, at the false prophets at the Har Carmel, which is up there in Haifa, and this is before they had the cable car. So the Eliyahu Hanavi and the false prophets, there were 2 cows, and Eliyahu Hanavi said, "You're going to sacrifice a cow, and I'm going to sacrifice a cow, and we'll see which one Hashem accepts, whose offering Hashem accepts." So the Medrash says that the cow that was meant to go with the prophets of the Baal refused to budge. And Navi had a conversation with the cow. They had a conversation with the cow. Please leave that door open as we get some air. All the way. Thanks, Blake. Eliyahu Navi actually had a conversation with the cow. And Navi said to the cow said, "Why?" He said, "Why aren't you moving?" The cow said, "Well, I don't want to move. This cow is going to be sacrificed by you, and he's going to be accepted by God. I'm going off to these idol worshipers. I don't want to be the idol worship cow." So Navi had to convince the cow. He said to the cow that you are also going to participate in Hashem's name being sanctified. By the fact that the offering you won't be accepted as an offering, that will be part of, you need both. And you're going to be a participant also. So one of the Mefarshim says over here, how would you like to be the goat to Azazel? Right? The goat to Azazel, I don't want to be the goat to Azazel, I want to be the goat to Allah Hashem. Why does he get to be the goat to Hashem? I want to be the goat to Hashem. So the second time when it says, V'shilach es hasa'ir bamidbar, one of the Mefarshim says that's the Kohen Gadol actually says to the goat, he has a conversation with the goat. And he says, "I know you're upset, bro, because you're going off to the wilderness. I know you're upset, but I want you to know that you are also part of the Yom Kippur service. You're also part of the merit for the Jewish people. That's what he suggests. That's why the repetition. Then it says, Uba Aaron elo moed upashad es bigdei habad asher lavash Aaron ubevo el kodesh ve'inicham sham. Aaron removes the garments. Don't worry, I'm coming back. Aaron removes the garments. That's not why I'm reaching for my garment. My marker isn't here. Okay, we'll survive without it. Aaron removes the garments and he puts them over there. Now take a look at Rashi. Take a look at Rashi at Pasuk Chav Gimel. It's in the first right column, and left column, top line. If you find it, please show the person next to you. Page 642, left column, top line. V'hinichav sham, Aaron puts his garments over there. Milamed, that teaches us, why does the Torah repeat, he takes off his garments and he puts them there. There's something about the word he puts them there, which is emphasizing something. Milamed, this teaches us. Shetu'unin geniza. Everybody knows what a geniza is, where you take the holy books and you bury them, right? Geniza means,
I don't know.
Okay, so good, I'm glad you said that. The geniza is if books are, let's say svarim, not books. Books are like books are like secular books. These are svarim. Let's say a svarim wear out. Right? They're worn out. What do we do with them? Where do we pay? You don't throw them out. They got Hashem's name in them. So they're collected and then they're buried. There's a special burial place for svarim where they bury them. It's called the geniza. You might have heard it called as the shemus. Shemus is just it really comes from the Hebrew shemot, the names of Hashem. But usually it's called the geniza. And there's a place where they collect it. Almost every frum neighborhood actually has a drop-off point. There's a big, generally they have a big metal, what do you call it? It looks like a garbage dumpster, but it's not. It's actually the geniza. In our neighborhood, they have a big metal container, and you actually bring it over and you pay as you bring it in. You pay 10 shekels for a bag to put into the geniza. And sometimes you have svarim, you have papers, you have something floating around that needs to be buried, and they collect it. Then you see the truck comes once a month and they take it off. There's special burial grounds for it. They actually bury it. That's what the geniza is. So here, the Torah says that the Kohen Gadol, when he removes his garments at the end of the service, they're buried over there. V'lo yishtamesh ba'osan arba begadim liyom kippurim acher. The Kohen Gadol the next year does not use those begadim. He has to get four new begadim. He did the service this year, then he takes them off, and they're buried. They're not used again. The next year, assuming he's alive the next year to perform the service, he wears different begadim. That's what the Torah says. So the question is, can we open that window over there, gentlemen? Thanks. The question is why? And one of the Mefarshim answers that there's a certain sense that people have. Sometimes we come to Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, a day of judgment, and they get judged. All sorts of things are riding on the line. Sometimes people think to themselves, "Listen, I made it through last year, and I haven't been bad this year. I haven't committed any acts of cannibalism, and I haven't robbed any banks, and I basically once in a while I speak lashon hara, but not too bad, and it's probably somebody who deserves it. And I've basically been okay. I certainly haven't been any worse than I was last year. I made it through last year. I should be able to make it through this year. So the Kohen Gadol might also feel, listen, I made it into the Holy of Holies, which is very, very tricky, and I made it out. Listen, I should be okay. Torah says, put away those garments. It's a new year. It's a new year. It's a new reckoning. We don't know we don't know the flaw in that reasoning. Well, I made it through last year, I'll make it through this year. The flaw in that reasoning is that we don't know how HaKadosh Baruch Hu works, and sometimes there's the straw that broke the llama's back, right? So we don't know when it's oh, you never heard that expression, huh? Yeah, it's usually the camel, but I don't like camels. So I do, but I don't own one. But I don't own a llama either. But why? So we don't have to be. It doesn't have to be just to follow whatever. Who decided camel? Maybe a llama. So you don't know when it's the straw that can break the camel's back, and a person may have made it through the last year, and he's only this far away from falling through the ice. And then the next year, all it takes is one time that he turns and chats with somebody during davening when he shouldn't be, and it goes zap. That just cost you your life. And therefore, the Torah is telling the Kohen Gadol, don't be overconfident. Last year was last year. You made it through. Next year is a new reckoning. It's a new accounting. So the clothing that you wore last year that should be buried as a reminder to you that you're starting from scratch. Okay. Take a look at Pasuk Perik Yud Zayin. Perik Yud Zayin Pasuk Dalid. Okay, we're moving on ahead now. Because there's a tremendous amount over here, but we haven't got time to get through everything. It's a double Parsha. Okay. The Torah starts on 644 at the bottom. We're going to read a couple of psukim here. 644 at the bottom. Last line. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. Daber Hashem says to Moshe, Daber el Aaron vel Bonov vel kol bnei Israel. Speak to Aaron, his children, all the Jewish people. V'marta aleim. Zeh adover asher tziva Hashem. Hashem lemor. Hashem has commanded the following. Ish mi beis Israel asher yishchat shor o kesev o ez b'machaneh. Anybody who slaughters an ox or a goat or a sheep or a goat, o asher yishchat b'chutz l'machaneh. You're bringing an offering. Fourth line. Ve'el pesach ohel moed lo hevio. He does not bring it to the entrance of the ohel moed. In other words, he did not bring it in the right place as an offering. Lahakriv korban laHashem lifnei mishkan Hashem, to bring it as an offering to Hashem. He slaughtered as what's called shchutei chutz. He has slaughtered something and brought it outside of the proper location. Dam yechoshev leishu. It's considered blood for this person. Dam shofach. He has spilled blood. V'nichras ha'isha mikerav ha'ma. He will be cut off from his people. That means he will suffer premature death. There should be more chumashim around, by the way. There are chumashim floating around for people who look at 644, 646. So we're talking about here about a guy who brings a korban, and he does not bring the korban to the right place. He slaughters it outside of the base of Mikdash. So the first thing the Mefarshim talk about here is, why does this section of the Torah follow the previous section? What's the connection? There's a rhyme and reason. Often there are more than one reason that are offered as the connection to the Torah. Why does this follow the previous section? The previous section is talking about the goat that's taken out. And then the Torah follows with not sacrificing outside of the camp. You want to bring a korban, bring it to the Mishkan, bring it where it's meant to be sacrificed. And if you don't, then it's premature death. It's kores. Person's cut off. So a couple of the Mefarshim suggest, there's a very logical connection, which is that, if one is good, more is better. So we took the goat and pushed him off the cliff, and that was outside the Mishkan, that was out in the wilderness. So in case people get confused, remember we mentioned that that's not a sacrifice, that's a bribe to the satanic forces. And in case a person feels, look, things done outside are beneficial. You see, you destroyed all the Averas by taking that goat and pushing him off the cliff. So maybe everything's going to be beneficial. I'll bring a korban outside of the camp. Comes along and Torah says, no. That's a one-off. That's once a year. And that's not even a sacrifice. That's an offering. That's not a sacrifice. That's a bribe to the Satan. Here, you want to bring korbanos, you have to go and you have to bring him in the Mishkan. And then if you look very precisely, it says, now, it is as if he has spilled blood. Now, what does that mean, it's he spilled blood? Take a look at Rashi. Dam shofach. Dam yechoshev. Sorry, dam, 3 lines from the top. It's considered blood. Says Rashi. Kishofech dam ha'adam. It's as if you have spilled human blood. Shemitzchai benafsho. Because when you spill human blood, you forfeit your life. If you spill human blood, that means if you murder somebody, so you've essentially forfeited your life. You're liable for the death penalty. Well, if a person slaughters an animal and spills the blood of the animal in the wrong place, it's also as if he spilled human blood. Now, it's not a capital offense, but it's premature death. So the Torah says this is very, very severe. The one in the Mefarshim says, it's not, which blood has he spilled? It's that, from the plain meaning, it sounds like he spilled the blood of the animal. Right? He spilled the blood of the animal. But at a deeper level, whose blood has he spilled? His own. Very good. He spilled his own blood. He's accountable. He has caused his own death. Of all ways to commit suicide. If we're going to do it, jump off a bridge, man. No, I'm going to commit suicide. I'm going to slaughter a sheep outside the camp. That's boring. If a A comedian once said he never understood people who try to commit suicide and it doesn't work. Like a guy tries to OD on pills, and he wakes up the next morning, and he quits. He says, doesn't try again. He said, I don't understand, what changed? What changed? That's one more thing in life you're bad at. You have even more reason to commit suicide, not less. Why do you quit? What changed over here? The guy jerked the gun at the last minute. Oh, well, okay, you can't even do that right. Yeah, Schlemazel. So I think it was Seinfeld. So that's the basic idea. He spilled his own blood. You're causing your own death. But even more than that, this is what's frightening. Take a look at the wording of the Torah again. Excuse me 1 second. We'll advertise while I cough. That's what happens when you don't buy this booklet. By the way, I don't want anybody to feel pressured to buy this. This is $14 on PayPal. Dovid B. Kaplan, B as in baseball. But I don't want you to feel pressured to buy. This is only for your own benefit. And don't worry about me. I'll hopefully find some other way to support my family. Don't worry about it. I'll be okay, I think. Listen, bread and onions are good, no pressure. So if you take a look at the wording very precisely, dam yechashev leishahu, dam shofach, it's considered blood. V'nichras ha'ishahu, that man will be cut off. In other words, he's spilling his own blood by being cut off. But even more than that, the Mefarshim say, he's going to be accountable for it. It's not just the punishment of dying prematurely. When he gets up there, he's then going to be accountable for having caused the death. It's not just dying. Dying is a punishment. And most people try to avoid it. Right? Dying itself is not good in most cases. Right? Here, it's not only the death. If you kill somebody else, you're accountable for killing somebody else, right? You're going to be punished for killing this person. Here he's going to die and then be punished for killing himself. It's like when a person commits suicide. Suicide is prohibited. Suicide is prohibited. A person who commits suicide then is accountable when he commits suicide. He's accountable for killing himself. Well, this guy's going to be accountable for it. It's not just the punishment of dying down here. There's going to be an accountability up there. And what that means is that the part of the accountability is that God takes the guy, okay, you died when you're 45 years old, right? Why didn't you put on tefillin when you were 50? Well, because technical problem. You need to be alive to put on tefillin. Right, why weren't you alive? Right? Well, because I don't know, because you took me. Why'd I take you? Right? Because I messed up. Good. Now you're accountable for not putting on tefillin at 50 years old. If the guy was supposed to live to 90, he's going to be accountable for all the mitzvahs that he could have been doing when he was 45 years old, from the time he's 45 till he's 90. So it's not just that's pretty frightening, isn't it?
That's pretty strict judgment.
It's strict judgment, but it works the other way as well. Because if a person was supposed to die at 45 and he did a mitzvah that caused him to live to 90, so now he racks up all that schar. And if you cause somebody else to benefit, so he gets schar for that too. So the judgment is not strict. The judgment is fair. The judgment is fair, and I told you, it leans more in the direction of benefit. Meruba mida tova meruba paranas. HaKadosh Baruch Hu pays at a higher rate for mitzvahs that he punishes for averas that nobody complains about. Right? That he pays at the higher rate for the mitzvah. So any time we see a punishment for an avera, so for example, if you did bring the korban in the right place, that's a mitzvah. So if you get punished for bringing it in the wrong place, imagine the reward you get for it. We always have to focus on the positive, gentlemen. Don't just focus on everybody. But the Torah is not Christianity, chas v'shalom, where it's the devil in a pitchfork waiting to get you. Right? You just have to know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't overlook things. It doesn't overlook. So there's consequences like everything else. Everything in life has consequences. If a guy crosses against a red light, he gets a ticket. Oh, that's strict. It's not strict. That's the law. Problem is, down here, you don't get rewarded for crossing at the green. You don't get any rewards for crossing at the green. You get punished for crossing at a red. To the contrary, Hashem's much more generous. Yeah. Did any of you drive? I drove home from work. Nobody said, hey, nice going. Right? Yeah, good job. Your father never said to you, boy, I'm glad to see you made it. No tickets today? Wow, we're really proud of you. right? New car for you. No, father's never. It's only when you messed up because you were speeding that you got, you're grounded for 2 weeks, right? But Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't work that way. Kodesh Baruch Hu gives you a reward for the good thing, for the good things that we do. The things you have to do it. We're told to do it. We did it. You got a reward for it. Okay. Take a look at pasuk. Let's see. Where are we now? What's next? That we did. 1 second. Okay. Now we go to a completely different concept. Perek Yud Zayin, Pasuk Yud Gimel. 13. Top of page 648. V'ish ish mi b'nei Yisrael min hager agor b'socham, any Jew or convert, asher yotzud seid, 648, top line. Asher yotzud seid chaya o of. If you hunt how does he translate a chaya? A beast? I don't like that. A chaya is specifically an undomesticated animal, or a fowl. Asher ye'ochel, which is eaten. V'shafach es damo v'chisol b'ofer. So here we have actually a mitzvah in the Torah. If you ever shecht what are the kosher non-domestic? A deer? Venison? Is venison deer?
Yes.
It's the same thing?
Yeah.
So why are there 2 words for it?
Venison is the meat.
Beef? Beef. Venison is the description of the meat that comes from the deer. Oh, okay. So what are deers? What is it? What else?
Is moose?
Bison. A moose. A moose. A moose is kosher?
It's a muffalo.
I'm not sure. I've never had. What is bison? Bison, but I don't. I think the meat is too tough. The what do you call it? But no. Giraffe is kosher actually. And by the way, people said that giraffe though you can't eat giraffe because they don't know where to shecht. It's the contrary. It's the easiest thing to shecht. You got the longest neck in the world. They always told us when we were little because you don't know how to shecht, where to shecht. What do you mean? I was when I was a kid. I never bothered asking. What do you mean you don't know where to shecht it? You close your eyes and stab away. He's got the longest neck in the world. I think the problem with giraffe meat is that first of all, to hold it down for shechita would be tricky. Oh. Giraffes are very, very much tougher than people think. The only giraffes are very tough.
I think they think they're very tough. I don't think people feel like giraffes are weak.
Do people realize how tough giraffes are? Because they look like they look kind of calm. They look like they should be pacifists on a college campus. But they what do you call it? They actually could kill lions. A giraffe with a kick. With a kick. The only time giraffes are vulnerable apparently is when they're drinking. Because when they're drinking, they go spread eagle on the ground to drink in the water. That's when they can be attacked by animals. Whereas when the lions, what do you call it? A giraffe gives it a kick, it can kill with a kick. So any type of undomesticated animal, it means not cows, not sheep, not goats. If a person shechts them, or fowl, then when you shech them, there's actually a mitzvah called kisui hadam. Have you ever heard of that? You cover the blood. You take dirt, and they cover the blood. They cover the blood with the dirt. And if there's actually a case in the Gemara where somebody covered up the dirt, somebody shechted, and somebody grabbed some dirt and covered it up, and he took him to Beis Din. He said, "You stole my mitzvah." And he fined him 10 gold pieces. I think it was Rabbi Gamliel maybe. He said he's got to pay 10 gold. You stole my mitzvah. How can you pay me for a mitzvah? Something that's eternal reward, and you're going to pay me in cash. So that was the fine that he levied on him. That it's a what do you call it? You stole his mitzvah. You stole his mitzvah. So there is a mitzvah of covering the blood of the animal. I've never done it, and I don't think I've ever even seen it done because I've never really watched the shechita. But you cover it applies to hold the question well. You apply. I got to it towards the end because I want to cover a lot more. There's a what do you call it? There's a mitzvah called kisui hadam. You cover the blood. Now this does not apply to cows, sheep, and goats, which are the domesticated animals. And the question is, why? Why is it specifically over here? And the commentaries bring about 4 different reasons why the mitzvah of kisui hadam is only on the, what do you call it? It's only on the chaya and the oaf and not a behema. And a behema is what I've translated as a beast. It's really the domesticated animals. So there are several ideas here. The most basic logic, there are midrashic ideas, there's a logical idea. the logical idea first is that if a person, where do you find birds and where do you find non-domesticated animals? You find them out in the wilderness. Cows, goats, and sheep are generally on the farm. They're right around your house. You have a cow, you have a corral, you have what's it called, a barn. That's where you have the domesticated animals. The non-domesticated animals are always out in the wilderness. You're always out in the mountains, out in the wilderness, that sort of thing. We had mentioned when it comes to the goat that they push off the cliff, who lurks in the wilderness areas? All the forces, all the satanic forces. One of the ways of making contact, for those who are interested in making contact with satanic forces, I imagine there must be rock stars. Somebody who's interested in making contact with these negative forces, one of the ways you do it is by imbibing blood. Unicorns also. You drink blood, and that's how you make contact with them. Now, a guy who goes out in the wilderness, listen, blood is a non-Jew is allowed to drink blood. Non-Jews is allowed to drink. We're talking about Jews. There's nothing wrong with the non-Jew drinking blood. As long as the animal's dead. If the animal, if he draws blood out of the animal, then it's one of the 7 Noachide laws of ripping the limb off a living creature, called Aver Min Achai. But there's essentially nothing wrong. In England, in the north of England, they have a food that's called black pudding, right, which is congealed blood. Well, what's that? I would assume they don't just take blood and congeal it. I would assume what they do is, and what I think is they put spices in it, and what do you call it? They make sandwiches out of it, and they come like I think like a salami roll type of thing. And I listen. The rule with food is if it didn't taste good, people wouldn't eat it. So they probably developed a taste for it. Then they go to the soccer games and trample each other. But the what do you call it? Which is what happens when you eat. Which is what happens when you eat blood. But there's nothing. I had a friend who was a shochet. My friend was a shochet. He said that there was in the slaughterhouses they usually have some non-Jews working there because they got big guys who can hold the animals steady while the Jewish guy comes in with the knife and hopefully gets the neck instead of the guy's arm. But they slaughtered the animals. He told me that one morning they shechted a cow and started bleeding, and one of the non-Jews was there, and apparently he hadn't had breakfast, and he just took a cup and he just filled it right up at the pump. Right, and down the hatch, don't knock it till you tried it, Then he what do you call it? He went on his merry way. It's full of minerals and stuff. We're not allowed to drink blood whatsoever. Come along the commentaries, they say the problem here is you're out in the wilderness, and you just hunted a deer. Let's say you slaughter a deer, and all of a sudden you see that blood. So you may be very tempted. Now you're out in the wilderness, like, oh, I saw that thing on Discovery Channel about contacting satanic forces. I wonder if it really works. And therefore, since birds, fowl, and deer, and are out in the wilderness, you might be tempted to imbibe. Therefore, it says cover up the blood right away. Idea number one: cover up the blood right away. On your barn and your farm, when you slaughter a goat on your farm, there are no satanic forces around on your farm. Hopefully. Right, there is your neighbor, but you've learned to get along with him, and maybe your sister-in-law once in a while also when she's stuck on automatic. But in general, you should be okay at home. Therefore, you don't have to cover up. That's the basic idea for covering it up. Now, the midrashic sources say that when Cain killed Hevel, the first murder in history. So Adam and Chava didn't know what to do with him. And since they didn't know what do you do with a dead body? It's the first murder in history. So it says that there are different midrashim. One says it was the birds, one says it was birds and the undomesticated animals that there's one midrash that says they saw two birds fighting. One bird killed the other one and he dug a hole and buried the other bird, so they learned what to do. So in the merit of the bird burying the other bird, that they saw as buried, so we cover up the bird's blood. There's another medrash that says that it was the birds and the undomesticated animals that helped them to bury, that taught them what to do. Whatever the case is, that's one medrash. There's another medrash that says that when Rivka Imenu was being brought to Yitzchak as a bride, so the Torah says when she saw Yitzchak, she either fell or jumped off the camel that she was riding on. And when that happened, she lost her virginity and started bleeding. When Yitzchak lived with her the first time, he found that she wasn't a virgin, so he suspected there was some adultery, there was some hanky-panky. So she told Yitzchak, let me show you that the blood came out as a result of the fall off of the camel, of the camel. And what happened was an animal came along, there was a chaya of some sort that guarded the blood to make sure none of the dogs came around and lapped it up. And because they guarded the blood, that allowed Yitzchak and Rivka to continue their marriage together. Therefore, they're rewarded that their blood is covered over. What's that? That's in the Medrash, yeah. That's what the Medrash says. So those are the reasons why that's why he covered the blood. But you have to realize that it's and then the Torah talks about the other, ki nefesh kol basar damo benafshahu. Third line, the soul of the animal, the soul of the animal is in the blood. Va'omar livnei Yisrael dam kol basar lo sochelo. Do not eat blood. Ki nefesh kol basar damo hi kol ochlo v'kares. Blood is very severe. If you eat the blood of an animal, it's very severe, punishable by kares. That's why one of the things we have to do is either salt the meat. Meat has to be salted. Meat, chicken has to be salted. And when you leave it in, that is pretty cool. They take these granules of salt. They can't be too thick because then they can't get into the folds, and they can't be too what do you call it? Too fine because then they'll dissolve. So there's certain size granules that they sprinkle on the chickens inside and out, and you watch them for about 20 minutes, and after about 20 minutes they actually draw out the blood and turn red. Right? The granules. Then they wash them off after whatever the halachic time period is for salting. Any red residue that comes out after that is halachically not considered blood anymore. And that's why sometimes you'll see some red juice coming out of the meat. But the meat has to be salted. The only meat that can't be salted is liver. Liver has to be roasted out because it can't be salted. If it's salted and it draws out the blood, the liver is still treif. It has to be what do you call it? The liver has to be roasted. Which I don't know if you guys probably like chopped liver. I don't, so I'm not so upset. But for those who like chopped liver, which is basically all of you, there are no nutrients. The nutrients are all roasted out of the liver. It's pure enjoyment, right? There's no nutritional value, whatsoever. You know, it's kind of like Cholt. There's no, it's like Cholt and Pepsi, right? There's no nutritional value whatsoever. It's just pure enjoyment. So, which is fine because that's on Shabbos. That's what we're supposed to have as enjoyment. And therefore, Jews are very, very. We have a very strong aversion to blood. Okay. Take a look now at mitzvah. Take a look at Pasuk. I want to finish Achrei today because we got to start Kedoshim. There's a tremendous amount in Kedoshim as well. Okay. Take a look at Perek Yud Ches Pasuk Hey. Okay. It starts on the bottom of 648. Okay. So it says, the Torah says not to follow, it starts with not following the paths of the Egyptians and the Canaanites, not uvichuko seyem lo selechu, we do not, well, let's read the Pasuk. It's actually Pasuk Gimel. Yeah, I'm reading from the beginning of Perek Yud Ches. Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe lemor, 648. Daber, 5 lines from the bottom. Daber al b'nei Yisrael v'amarta lehem ani Hashem Elokeichem, I am Hashem your God, and therefore, K'mai say Eretz Mitzrayim asher yeshavta bo lo sasu, do not do what they did in Egypt. Uchamaisei Eretz Canaan asher ne'meveyaschem shama lo sasu. Do not behave like the Canaanites. All their idol worship, immorality, and all the various inappropriate behaviors. Uvechukoseim lo selechu. Vechukoseim means you must not follow any of their customs. Now, what this means is, and it's a very fine line here, doing something that is a custom of the non-Jews, we're not allowed to do. So, for example, if they dress in a certain style, we don't dress in that style. There are commentaries that say it has to be that the styles are linked in some way to either idol worship or immorality. And otherwise, we can't wear anything. I can't wear regular shirts because the Western world wears shirts. We can't wear Middle Eastern clothing because the Middle Easterners wear that clothing. So then we can't, you can't run around naked because that's what they all do. So they can't. So we can't. What are we supposed to do? So it's limited to following their customs. I just saw recently, there's a minhag on Shavuos. Have you ever seen there's a minhag on Shavuos that people put flowers and branches in the shuls? You've ever seen that? Because there are different reasons for it. One of the reasons is because Shavuos were judged on the fruits of the tree. Different reasons for why we do it. The Vilna Gaon didn't do it because the Vilna Gaon, he didn't say it's prohibited. He himself didn't do it because the non-Jews have a custom around the 25th of December that they put a tree up. In the house, outside the house, they put up trees. They wanted to avoid anything like that. The poskim say it's not usher because we're not doing it because of that. We're not doing it at the same time. We're doing it inside. We're not doing it outside. And we're not even putting up that sort of tree. By the way, I heard a story once. You love this. This is unbelievable. This Jewish family, a frum family, so they moved into a non-Jewish city because the father had to be there on business for a couple of years. So, you got Avi and Yitzi and Yankee. And the only ones that are to play with are Johnny, Billy, and Tommy. So, they play with their non-Jewish friends. And then the 25th of December comes around. So Mr. Murphy goes and he buys a Christmas tree. And he comes home and he says, hey, Johnny, Billy, Tommy, help me bring in the tree. So the frum kids say, Mr. Murphy, can we help too? He says, yeah, sure, guys. So they start schlepping in this tree. So Avi says to him, well, Mr. Murphy, how tall does the tree have to be? He says, oh, it doesn't matter. It could be any size. It could be big or little, Yitzi says, well, Mr. Murphy, how close to the window does it have to be? He says, it doesn't matter. You can put it in the middle of the room if you want. Yankee says, well, Mr. Murphy, what if some of the leaves start turning brown? Is the tree puzzle? He says, why are you guys asking so many questions? Just a lousy tree. Why are you asking so many questions? Right? The answer is because a frum kid, you stop and think about what's going on in a frum home. From the minute that a kid is born, he's already, you watch a kid who's 1 year old, 1.5 years old. My grandchildren, I do Havdalah. They're also like, they're like this with the candle and with the besumim. Everybody's smiling. Kid wants the besumim. Oh, I have one grandchild who has to eat the besumim. He's very, he's machmir. He's very, very righteous. They're growing up in a home where a kid looks at his mother and says, Mommy, why do you stand talking to the wall every day for a few minutes? Sees his mother davening. Sees his mother davening. Sees his father putting on tefillin. Kids are raised with this sort of, look at the ritual that goes on in the Torah homes. Everything is rules. In the Torah home, everything is rules. Are we allowed to eat that? My grandson asked his mother, why he's 4. He's 4 years old. He said to her, why we had a birthday party in kindergarten. Why were they allowed to play music? Because it's Sfiras HaOmer. Why is it tzaddik? I don't know. I don't know about tzaddik. A kid certainly he's just wondering. I don't know about tzaddik. Kids aren't tzaddikim so fast, He might be smart and precocious. It takes a while to become a tzaddik. Wait till he's 7. The what do you call it? So the kid, and so my daughter told me he even woke up the next day. She said so. My daughter said to him the obvious answer, which is what? We'll ask Daddy. Because she didn't know, and she's older. Yeah, no tzaddikas there. So she what do you call? So he wakes up the next morning, like at 5 a.m. He's a Nate's guy, right? And he wakes up at 5 a.m. and the first thing out of his mouth is, "Why can't we listen to the music?" You can't have that kid wear a kid. By me, I would ask it once. If I woke up at 5 a.m, I'd be asking for the coffee, not why I'm listening to music. But a kid in his mind where everything else is so rule oriented, and he heard a rule that we're not allowed to listen to music, and all of a sudden you are, and you better have it again. Better have a good reason for it. You better have a good, and there is a reason. The kindergarten teacher asked a posek, and the posek said that for little children, for birthday parties, they could listen to music. Right. So, but you better have a reason. You better have reason. And then as soon as he finishes, gets his answer, then he turns and hits his sister. He goes immediately from the philosophical to the practical. So there goes your tzaddik, Israel. But the what do you call it? You understand that we were raised in everything is rules. Everything is rules from day one. They're rules, and they're used to. You can't turn on that light switch. Can't turn on that light switch. Shabbos. Can't turn on the light switch. Oh, we can't play with that toy, the electric toy. Can't play. Why not? It's muktzah. So they learned the word muktzah. So anytime he doesn't want anybody doing anything in the house, even on Tuesdays, you can't. It's muktzah. So it takes them a while to get adjusted to exactly what the rules and regulations are. But you have to understand this. So if a kid like this sees a tree and he just had Hanukkah, and a Hanukkah's got to be by the window, can't be in the middle of the room, and it's got to be a certain size. Everything. The lulav has to be a certain size. That's what kids got in his mind. That's what from kids are thinking. That's where they're coming. I remember once we were in Columbus, the next door neighbors also were not Jewish, and my kids were really young, little Israeli hood kids, and from kids. And the next door neighbor, one of them was Tommy, and the other one was Jimmy, and my kids kept calling him Shimmy. They figured they must be Shimmy. You know, they could, what do you call it? Yeah. In any event, okay. So where did we get to here? Where we were just reading on 648. Yeah. So we're not allowed to follow in their statutes. We're not allowed to copy anything they do for the sake of copying. One of the questions I remember asking, that's a commonly asked question, is whether or not Jews are allowed to eat turkey on Thanksgiving. You know, because there were many American Jews who made a point of having turkey on Thanksgiving, and I asked the posek that question once, and he said, "Thank you very much," and he said it's not usher. You're right, but the opposite. He said it's certainly not a nice thing to do, but the idea of Thanksgiving is not rooted in idol worship, and therefore it's not prohibited. So all the Jews buy turkey around Thanksgiving because they're on sale, right? So that's the Jewish thing. I think Rav Avigdor Miller says that you're not allowed to. He says that it is rooted in idol worship. But I asked the posek who said it's not rooted in idol worship, so it's not usher. Yeah.
So all the traditions of the Canaanites were founded in idol worship, and that's why.
Whatever traditions anything in the pagan world. It's a good question you're asking. In the ancient world, any traditions that they had, and that's in the ancient world, any traditions they had to be suspected that it was rooted in idol worship. In today's world, as we suspect that it has something to do with somebody's making money. Right, so somebody's promoted something. That's in today's world, but the ancient world, yeah. All right.